Good morning. Welcome. Happy Monday. This is your early morning intuitive guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, here with some words of wisdom to start your day off well. And I got to thinking toward the end of last week and then kept forgetting. It's time we refresh some of our skills in terms of dealing with family at holidays, dealing with holiday pressure, all the stuff. So one option is, and we're going to be doing this hopefully within the next couple of days, Morgan, my Uber virtual assistant, is going to be putting together kind of a playlist of the Common Ground conversations that Jonelle Conley and I did last year related to the holidays and dealing with family members, etc. Excuse me, got a frog today. But I also wanted to revisit Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison, because her stuff is so good, so good. So if when we were going through this a section at a time, you weren't a part of our Practical Rebels, I would definitely encourage you to order the book because it is amazing at helping us not step in it for the holidays. So we'll give it a minute and let people pop on. Oh, look, there's my little light beam that shines into my brain. I don't know, certain tilts on the camera will let that light beam show up. Sometimes I don't see it for a significant chunk of time, and then all of a sudden there it is. And I kind of think, it looks like it's doing a mind probe. Anyway, good morning, Carolyn. You're the first one here today. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. And Kermit and Miss Piggy. That is awesome. So let's start with some tapping and some breath just to settle ourselves into right here, right now, get ourselves grounded. For some people, Mondays are the hit the ground running again day. So let's just start it out in a calm fashion. So pick a spot to tap. I happen to like the collarbone points. And some breath, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Looks like someone else has popped on. Good morning. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel what that feels like to really take in a deep breath in through the nose. Good morning, Miss Barb. Out through the mouth. Right here, right now. Good morning, Nancy. Welcome. And Gwen. Everybody's starting to roll in. Once one of you shows up, then it seems like a whole bunch of you find me. So good. There's Joe Neal. Good morning. Safe travels. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Good morning, Mel. Hello, hello. So for those of you who are just jumping on, I just want to repeat that Morgan, our virtual assistant, is going to put together a playlist of the Common Ground conversations from last year this time. Good morning, Maureen. Welcome. Thank you for the sunshine. Of all of the Common Ground conversations that were related to dealing with the stress of the holidays. So you'll be able to find it all in one spot, which will be good. And I think Joe Neal might be doing a little montage of clips from things that are all things how to survive the family at the holidays. But also today I started going back through Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. And I picked out a section that I learned about significantly during graduate school, and I'll explain what that means, and then revisited when I first found this book. So the gist of it is, what I was doing at that point, I was a graduate student, and I was working for one of the professors, gathering data on parents' interactions with their children. And one of the things that previous research had shown was that questions don't serve us well. Not when we're talking to children, and oftentimes not when we're talking to adults, because the way we pose the question becomes like interrogation. Good morning, Beth. Glad you are here. So that's a part of the section I'm going to read today, just to bring it to our awareness. So like when I was working with parents, the way we did it was they were in a playroom with their child. This was toddlers. And I was behind a one-way glass. And I had a little earpiece in their ear and I could talk to them and give them feedback and suggestions on what to say, to move away from the questioning. What are you doing now? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? And into a couple of other kinds of ways that you could communicate. One of them being description. Now you picked up the red block. Now you're putting the blue block on the red block, just describing what they were doing, not asking it as a question. Are you holding the red block? We're also, let me think of the word, groomed. Groomed to pose things as questions, and that doesn't go very well. So let me read the chapter. Those of you who actually have the book, if you know where it is and you want to dig it out and dust it off, this is chapter 5, Common Misuses of Our Basic Communications Tools. And the point she's making is that we use these common ways of speaking as weapons instead of as tools. We often communicate in a way that increases conflict instead of resolving it. So she's talking about there being 3 basic kinds of communication: questions, statements, and predictions. And she's making the claim that we tend to way overuse questions and we use them in a way that weaponizes them. So I'm going to read this section that's called Questions, Villains in Disguise. Let's take a breath. We're here to learn. We're here to understand how what we've been doing may not be serving us and may not be serving our relationships. So here we go. This is page 61 if you have the book. At a family reunion several years ago, Sylvia asked her great-aunt Mabel, whom she had not seen for many years, about Mabel's 2 daughters, who lived far away and were unable to attend. When Sylvia innocently asked, "How are your daughters?" Mabel replied gruffly, "So who are you, the FBI?" Made almost speechless by her aunt's reaction, Sylvia mumbled something innocuous and changed the subject. While Mabel's response to a genuine question may seem extreme, it is very understandable in light of how questions are often asked. Dictionaries, which reflect our common usage, focus on words like interrogate when offering a definition for the verb question. Good morning, Mary. Thank you for the coffee. Here is a list of other verbs used to describe questioning: ask, challenge, cross-examine, debate, disbelieve, discredit, dispute, doubt, examine, inquire, mistrust, object, probe, pry. Can you see how even the way the dictionary describes us questioning makes it clear that we're not using those words neutrally? We're not using those questions neutrally. These definitions reflect a tendency to use the question as part of an adversarial process. When Sylvia asked her a simple question, Mabel felt interrogated, hence her reference to the FBI. We have no idea what Mabel was afraid of. Perhaps one of her daughters was an alcoholic, and the question caused her to fear the exposure of a family secret. Like Mabel, we may sometimes be reluctant to answer a question because our answers can be used against us. Further, we also frequently resist asking questions for fear of being seen as invasive or prying. The use of questions as tools of interrogation is so common that when workshop participants, so she teaches workshops on communication, on effective communication, so workshop participants practice asking questions non-defensively. Regardless of how much communication training they have had, they are continually amazed at how hard it is to refrain from adopting an accusatory tone of voice or body language. Yeah. So then she talks about using questions in an adversarial way. And especially if our asking of the question is fraught with a little bit of difficulty. Good morning, Cheryl. Welcome. There's 10 of you here. Wow, this is awesome. Because this is something I really want to have us pick up and run with. And if the 10 of you could share this with 2 more people, that'd be 30 plus of us who get this and can begin to make a change in it. So here are some examples of how we mask statements as questions. What did you do that for? Underlying message, I'm irritated with you. Do you want to go to a movie tonight? Underlying message, I would like to go to a movie. That one really grabbed me. It's like, it would go so much better if I stated my desire first. I'd like to go out for dinner tonight. Would you like to go out for dinner tonight? Then they know the framework. You know how people ask questions without putting it in context because they don't want you to have the context? Are you busy today? What does that mean? You want help moving? You want me to take care of your mother-in-law? What does that mean, you know? Since when do you care what he thinks anyway? Underlying message, I don't want to deal with your anxiety. So can you see how we mask all kinds of things? Just even being aware, if each one of us picked one of these, even being aware that we have this tendency in the English language to do this. Again, we've already talked repeatedly about the warlike nature of our language. I'm aiming to blah, blah, blah. I'll take a shot at that. She lost her battle with cancer, blah, 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 blah. It's in our language all over the place. And working to, sometimes you'll see me catch myself on here and change up how I pose something so that it isn't utilizing that kind of language. So, voice tones can make questions sound defensive. If you sound harsh and accusatory, like what did you do that for? Can you see how it's going to be kind of difficult for the person not to respond defensively? Accenting key words. Why did you do that? Yep. Sounding sing-song or overly melodic in tone. I'm trying to think of an example of that. Do you always? Yeah. Speaking rapidly or clipping the words. I do that. I know I do that one. So if someone poses something in a way, well, I guess my thought was, it's gonna, raising the pitch at the end of the question. And so that's an easy one to catch. I'm wondering what you're thinking. You lift at the end instead of, I'm wondering what you're thinking. Give me an idea of what you're thinking on this. It's really about controlling the tone of our voice. So there's body language that can make questions sound offensive. If you're shaking your head, if you got your hand on your hips, lots of things that'll make a question become interrogatory. You're trapping people. So, what can we do to correct this, right? Again, one can be turning it from a question into a statement. One can be saying it from the perspective of what do I want rather than making it a question about what the other person wants. A third thing we can do is just even have one of the people that's most important to you, just have a question or a little conversation with them about, hey, I learned something new about questions today. Put it out there. Yes, Jonil, help me understand. Help me understand where you're coming from on this. Watch the tone of your voice. It is really hard not to put that in there. The more we practice, the better off we're going to be. The more we take good care of ourselves, the better off we're going to be. So if you're the lunatic who says, I'll cook the entire Thanksgiving dinner, everything from soup to nuts, can you see how you're probably going to be a little bit edgier than if you say, okay, everybody bring something, and I'll take care of the turkey and the desserts. What are you doing to take care of yourself during the holidays? Many of us have borne witness to the older females in our lives killing themselves on the holidays, trying to do everything just right, and then they get edgy. They got edgy and irritable. They weren't very good at allowing help either. So, allowing help, that would be a great way to go. Could one of you grab the blah, blah, blah. There, and look, there's the question. Let's flip it around. I could use one of you to grab the blah, blah, blah. Make it a statement instead, a statement of your need instead of a question. So, yes, exactly. Have to watch the tone. Have to watch the tone. And many people don't hear the tone in their own voice. So one of the things that I've done with couples is I've asked permission. Can I use my phone to record a part of a conversation between the two of you? And oftentimes it's a conversation they had that didn't go well. Okay, I want the two of you to repeat that conversation in front of me, and I'm going to record it. And inevitably, the shows up in their voices, and then when I play it back, they can finally hear it. When they say it, they're not hearing the tone with which it gets delivered. When they hear it back on a recording, they can go, oh yeah, yeah, I hear the edge. I hear the edge. Okay, so then let's practice doing it differently. Let's practice doing it differently. Now, one of the things you run into with this kind of work is we've also gotten, I'm going to use a strong word here, addicted to conflict. Some of us like jacking other people up. Those people who are getting a hit off of conflict aren't going to be overly motivated to drop it, to turn it into a neutral conversation. And there's where it's your opportunity to practice how do you stay neutral when someone else is baiting you, when they're dangling the bait. So there was one yesterday, and I don't think she intentionally meant to bait me, but it poked a button. So my sister and I were going back and forth via text message, which is always a dangerous platform for us. And I was doing other things, so I wasn't with it enough to say, hey, we should take this to the phone. And she was, let me think what the topic was. Hang on, it's right there. Oh, a wrist guard, a wrist brace, because they're suggesting that the reason my dad's fingers are getting numb is because of how he's using his cane. He's pushing on the cane and it's impinging here and causing 3 fingers to go numb. But with a person with dementia, you can't really explain that to them and have them modify their behavior. So the doctor thought, well, if we get a wrist guard and it's one that's designed for carpal tunnel, maybe that would help cue him. So Vicky sent me one via text message that could be ordered online. My dad's hands are massive. I mean, his thumb is the size of a quarter. He's got these, we have a terrible time finding gloves for him. How is this wrist guard thing going to fit, right? So my thought was, we probably need to have him try it on instead of ordering it and it doesn't fit. So I send back, and here was an unclear communication as well, because I didn't put my thought process in there. I'm thinking because his hands are so large, if we order something, we may just have to send it back because it won't fit. I didn't say that. I just said, well, my week is lighter this week, so I could take him to Walgreens and have him try some. There's all kinds of implications in there, right? Like, in her mind, I could see her thinking she doesn't like my way of doing this. She doesn't like the idea that I'm going to order it online. So then she sends back to me, how are you going to know if it's a good one if there aren't any reviews? So then I immediately go into, she doesn't think my way is a good one. We're good at this. We're really good at this. So again, the communication got messed up because we're asking all these questions. We're getting no tonal information at all. So we are left to our own devices to imply the tonal information, which, depending on what our mindset is and how we're doing on a particular day, we can instantly go to, she doesn't like how I'm doing this. So this was actually very helpful for me going through that story, because now I realize I didn't give her the context. So we'll go back and have more conversation about that, hopefully over the phone. So your mission for today, should you choose to accept it, is be thinking about some of these questions that you ask automatically. And maybe you can catch a couple of them and back up the bus and turn them into statements instead. Would you like to go out to dinner tonight? Versus, I'm pretty tired and I'd rather not cook. I'd rather go out for dinner. Practice. Talk to a couple of people about what you learned from today's early morning intuitive guidance. Share it with somebody, especially somebody with whom you tend to have the communication difficulties. That would be really, really wise. So that is our section for today. We may trot the book out a little more over the course of the holidays. I hope you have an awesome Monday. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you are capable of far more than you think you are, including communicating in ways that don't have so many questions. Good morning, Diane. We are just done, but I'll post it in a second. Bye, everybody.